This episode is brought to you by the Marine Corps Association and Foundation. The Marine Corps Association is committed to our mission of providing resources for professional military education and esprit de corps. If you like what we're doing, consider donating. There are multiple ways to give, such as our year-end giving. Join our year-end matching gift challenge by donating to the Marine Corps Association by December 31st. Your tax-deductible donation will be tripled, going 3 times as far to fund professional development programs for Marines. Every gift strengthens our Corps. Give today at mca-marines.org/donate-to-MCAF and help shape tomorrow's Marine leaders. Hey, Scuttlebutt listeners, this is episode 175. This week, we welcome Lieutenant Colonel Tom Schueman and Nate Boaz back to the show. Tom and Nate are both returning guests, and Tom so much so, we may need to get him a designated parking spot, especially now that he's here giving his pound of flesh at TCOM. For those who haven't been keeping track, Tom is the founder of Patrol Base Abbate, and Nate is its chairman of the board of directors. Please go back and check out our previous episodes with them. Today, Tom and Nate give us updates on what's going on with PB Abbate and how veteran support organizations provide a critical need to help prevent veteran suicide through community and purpose. Especially now, as we approach the holiday season and people who are at high risk for suicide, such as veterans, are most vulnerable during this time, we encourage everyone to find VSOs like PB Abbate so that we can all RTB, or return to base, in 2025. Here is episode 175. Hey, Scuttlebutt listeners, thank you for joining us and thank you for your continued support. I'm Vic, and I am here just really geeking out right now. For those who are been following our catalog, I'm here. I've got a return guest who was actually here recently, Nate Boaz. Nate, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Vic.
And for all of us Marine Corps nerds, I'm here yet again, I think on your 4th time around the block with Lieutenant Colonel Tom Schueman. Tom, thank you so much for coming in.
Rockets them.
Yeah. We've actually got him in studio. He works right up the street, but he's with TCOM, so this may be the only time we'll see him over the next 24 months. But we're looking forward to all of his future stuff and just really so happy that both of you guys made time for us. Nate, you've been doing the media rounds. And Tom, you've got a meeting here in about an hour, so we'll try to make this quick. But thank you guys so much for coming in. Really appreciate it. So let's talk some Patrol Base Abbate. Nate, you're in town for the exhibit, the OEF exhibit opening up on Sunday, but you've also got a board meeting for PB Abbate on Saturday. You just finished a TV interview down in Richmond. Dude, you're putting in the miles, man. This is really great that you're here.
It's all focused on really, fundraising and increasing the impact that we can have at Patrol Base Abbate. And so I'm really trying to get the word out in every possible way to anyone and everyone who can, lend their time or treasure or whatever they can give to the organization, because I think that's critical for us to continue to have an impact and expand it to more people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for those aren't aware, this is your chance to get right and get on board with Patrol Base Abbate. Tom, could you kind of give us a little more than the elevator speech, but just tell us, because actually when the pre-show, we were just talking about how in a lot of ways, a lot of these veteran support organizations are meeting a very similar need, but there's such a personal touch with Patrol Base Abbate, and how it's in the genesis of the program, how it was implemented, and then its absolute rapid growth. Could you just sort of give us the origin story of Patrol Base Abbate, which is so deeply personal to you and just makes it, I think, such a genuine, authentic veteran support organization?
Sure. Our mission is to reduce veteran suicide, and we're doing that by creating community and connection and helping service members and veterans rediscover their their sense of belonging and their sense of purpose. The genesis of the organization was tied back to 2020. It was April, and I was teaching at the Naval Academy, and in a 30-day period, I had 3 Marines commit suicide. And about a year or two ago, there was a 3-5 reunion, 3-5 Sangan reunion that we hosted back in San Mateo, and we rallied at the top of First Sergeant's Hill, where there's a memorial up there. It's a very sacred, special place. And our old battalion commander, now General Morris, was up there, and we did final roll call. And we had 25 killed on that deployment. And after we called out the 25 names the 3 times that you do during the roll call, which I believe is one of the more powerful ceremonies in existence, General Morris then said, and call out anybody who's died after Sangan. And so you just heard 25 names, and now you heard double.
Jeez.
At least double the amount of names that were called out. And in my platoon, Kilo 1st Platoon 3-5, I had 19 casualties and 3 KIA. You know, I've lost 3 times more Marines, 4 times more Marines than that on the home front than I lost on the battlefield. And so as casualties continued to accumulate on the home front, I finally just said, you know, as a lieutenant, you did everything you could to keep these Marines alive in combat. You trained them the best you could. While you were in firefights, you got them the close air support that they needed, our artillery. You helped get a medevac. And now what are you doing to keep your Marines alive here on the home front? And I felt like the answer was not enough. And I felt like I have a duty to at least try to continue to support my Marines and keep them alive and keep them in the fight. So I just come from a year of grad school, so I was okay at doing research, and so I just did my research, which is, if you pull the VA annual suicide reports, you'll get all the data that you need to kind of understand the problem. And the problem is pretty clear: disconnectedness and isolation. That's your highest risk population for veteran suicide, or the highest risk kind of contributing factors towards veteran suicide, and then the protective factors then are pretty basic. So if you know people who are isolated or disconnected are at risk, then people who are well connected in community are protected. And so those are kind of those protective factors. And then who is affected by suicide? And the National Guard has the highest statistic of suicide rate out of any branch of service, which I thought was initially interesting. I found that there's, while combat veterans have a 40% more likely chance of suicide than your average civilian counterpart, that non-combat veterans have nearly 68% more likely to commit suicide than their civilian counterparts. So there's no correlation between combat and suicide, and it's actually non-combat veterans have a higher propensity of suicide than combat veterans. And so if you take the premise that we care about veteran suicide as an issue, and when the data informs us that it's across every branch of service, and it's across every MOS and community, then what organizations or resources are out there for everybody who's served to find that community and to get connected? And yeah, the landscape is saturated with VSOs, about 40,000 of them. However, many of those VSOs are tailored very narrowly to very subset populations of veterans. And so while I think those veterans deserve support, and I think those organizations have noble and honorable missions, I felt a duty to try to reduce the number of veterans committing suicide. And so I wanted to align with an organization that was open and accessible to anybody who served. And what I found is a number of prerequisites, a number of barriers to entry to gain access and resources to these organizations. You had to be a certain amount disabled, a certain amount of disordered, a certain amount of wounded, a certain amount of special forces. just hurdle after hurdle to getting access to the help that you might need. And so I just, after failing to find an organization to align with what I thought was the proper value set to reducing veteran suicide, I said, someone's got to walk point, and why don't you do it? And so we started Patrol Base Abbate in honor of Sergeant Matthew Abbate's one of my scout snipers who was killed in action in Sengen. He's a Navy Cross recipient. Wanted to honor his legacy and wanted to improve mental health outcomes for our veterans. And so we went and got a base up in Montana. We structure our programming. Our return to base program is structured around a common interest. So for guys that like jujitsu, guys and gals that like jujitsu, we got a fight club. For people that like lifting weights, we got a strength club. We got book clubs, hunting clubs, fishing clubs, golfing club, scuba dive club. You name it. We find
Scuba's not in Montana though.
No, that's what
yeah. We got a surf club, also not in Montana, but we find a way to resource groups of veterans to help them find community connection, predominantly at our base in Montana through our return to base program. And again, it's that appeal that with this emphasis on accessibility and inclusivity, we say, hey, we do the thing that you do. You are eligible. Who, me? Like, yes, you veteran who's listening to this, you are eligible to participate in our programming. We're going to do the thing that you love. You're welcome to do it, and we're going to do it free of cost, and we're going to do it in the most beautiful location in the country. That's a pretty good deal. And the impact and outcomes of that program have been life-saving for many of the participants who have gone through it. And so it's just a real humbling experience to have a small role and to see the veteran community gathering together around this campfire out in the middle of the mountains of Montana, and to see the positive effects that this program has on them. And to see that, just 4 years ago, I was teaching literature at the Naval Academy with a ragtag bunch of volunteers trying to put this thing together while still on active duty. And then, this past couple months ago to be part of the Sergeant Major Marine Corps symposium up at USNI, and part of the evening parade as one of the organizations that was recognized during the parade. Has been pretty incredible, and is really just a testament to our volunteers and to our board members like Nate, who have really helped us build what I think is a world-class program. And so that's kind of a little bit of genesis to where we are now. We're running 200 veterans through every summer through our program up at our base in Montana, and have over 30 local chapters where you can sustain the impact. Sustain the transformation just came out. A revised version,
Yep.
right? So it's like, how do you sustain the transformation so that it's just not a one-time deal? And our local chapters enable our members to continue to find that community and connection right where they live.
Sure. I think, obviously sustaining the transformation is focused on those in uniform. It's obviously always a challenge regardless, but it's even more when you take the uniform off, and then that sense of community is gone. You get your DD-214, you throw your boots over the wire, and then you go, fuck yeah, and then 90 days later, you're like, what the fuck am I doing?
Or 20 years later.
Yeah, or 20 years,
like,
yeah.
And one of the things that, I would put out there that I think speaks to, hey, look, we've got, less than 1% of the population's wearing the uniform right now. About 5 to 6% of the population wore the uniform at some point. So 18, 19 million people out there. I, got out after a couple of combat tours, great experience, went to grad school, doing really well personally, family, business, life, all that stuff. By all sort of normal measures, successful life. All the advantages and privileges that, you'd want to have. And then sort of it all hit me at once. And the beauty of this organization is that when it did hit me, that's when Tom reached out, and I was talking to him about it, and he was asking me to get involved. And I've said this in other forums. I didn't realize that I needed Patrol Base Abbate as much as Patrol Base Abbate needed me, right? And I think a lot of people who have volunteered or have signed up as members recognize that, right? Like they're putting themselves into it, and then they're getting more out of it than they put into it. Because I think it's a struggle that's not talked about enough, in a way where people, I think, feel comfortable to say you need help and before you get into crisis. And that's the other thing that I think Tom emphasized, that really attracted me, is this notion that it's, left of bang, or, an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure, right? All these other organizations, many of them, I've worked with, have approached me. They do good stuff, but they're focused on someone who's already in crisis. How are we putting the armor? What's the Kevlar that we're putting on? What's the the SAPI plates we're putting in?
Yeah,
for,
who's doing your PC?
Yeah, right. Like
your
who's making sure? Who's making sure that you have that community connection? You have someone who's going to pick up the other end of the radio when that moment comes.
Yeah. Well, I think you mentioned it last time you were on, Nate. But this idea that, like, here we are in middle of playoff season, the NFL season, and so you imagine going into a sold out arena that's full of cheering fans, and then you blink, and then they're all dead.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the epidemic that we're dealing with.
It's beyond measure right now. I don't think the VA actually even has good numbers, and DoD has good numbers. It took this study from Boston University and Brown University to basically show the Tom's giving the samples of 3-5 and his personal experience, but they looked at post 9/11 veterans. So people who have I was a pre 9/11 veteran, but post 9/11 veterans versus all that died in Iraq, Afghanistan, the global war on terror, Syria, all these other places. 4 times as many have died by suicide. So 7,000-ish died in Afghanistan and Iraq, and that, horrendous sacrifice and, all the things that were given up there. But since then, people who have served 4 times as many. So 35, 40,000, a whole stadium full of our veterans. Yeah, no,
it's crazy. And it's, it's also, I think, one of these things where, to Tom's point, like there are so many support organizations that are doing great things for their members. But for you guys, it's the membership is just your ID card, right? Like that's the whole thing. Like your only entry criteria is you have an ID card, right?
And so you're, the active service is the cost of admission at PBA. The fact that you raised your right hand, you are now welcome.
And that's guardsmen too, right? Like,
correct.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have lots of active duty folks that actually participate in our programming too, because again, it's the idea of trying to be proactive and proactive approach that there's a transition coming at some point, and if you're already kind of nested in that community and have those connections, the protective factors again are statistically you're much more likely to have better outcomes.
Sure.
The sooner you engage in finding that tribe, and when we think of like who is welcome at PBA versus maybe with other organizations, I think PBA really resonates with a lot of people who have a tension with their service, where they've been kind of conditioned in this post 9/11 generation that there are hierarchies or tiers of what it means to serve.
100%, yeah.
And they feel maybe insecure about their service, and PBA says like, look, we're not here to we're not interested in if you jumped out of an airplane or, we just care that you served. And so sailor, soldier, airman, Marine, reservist, National Guardsman, like this is your base. And so for people to feel like they can claim their service identity as part of who they are, not their entire identity, but as an important part of their identity, and kind of reconcile that, I think that's part of PBA's appeal is those veterans who have struggled with reconciling their service from what kind of they've been told is what it means to serve, and then what they felt, and they felt like what did mattered, but they've kind of been conditioned to think that maybe they are less than.
Right.
And PBA says, like, hey, this isn't a competition. We're just so happy you served. Come on in.
One of the things Tom taught me about that, which I think is so important right now, and it gets at the core of the issue, I think, is this: there's no I was just I was just a whatever, I was just an intel guy, you're infantry, or I was just an infantry guy, you were special forces, or I was just there's no I was just a right. And the way the programs are run, and the way the membership connection is run, is there is no hierarchy. There is no, no one's, beating their chest and saying, I did this or I did that or whatnot. It's you're in. And there's this this quote from Sebastian Junger, who's actually, the author who's been out to the PB for the book club. He actually filmed a video for it. We should get it on the website for you to put out there. But, he wrote Tribe, on homecoming and belonging, which is he's written a bunch of books, War, others, but Tribe is one that sort of gets at the core of this. And he said, people don't mind hardship, right? But they mind not feeling necessary. And we've done a great job in this society, not in the military, but in society in general, as people come back, right? That 1% of the population that serves right now, or the 5 to 6% that have served, of making them not feel necessary.
Yeah.
And it's time for that to end.
Yeah.
Right? It's time for that to end. And so this whole notion that, what medals did you get, or where did you serve, or how many deployments did you do? The sort of, the measurement competition.
So did you see combat?
Yeah. Did you kill anyone? Right. Like that whole, sort of societal, did you do something necessary and important? Tom taught me that every single one of us swore an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to do what's necessary and to sacrifice ourselves if that came to that point. It doesn't come to that point for everyone, and thank God it doesn't.
Yeah.
But it's that notion of you did something that very, very few people have done, and you should be honored for that no matter what.
Right. And so much of it too is just, where did you fall into the cycle, right? Like, I don't want to say that it's by chance, because it isn't, but in a lot of ways, your experience had nothing to do with you. Right. You raised your right hand, you were willing to serve. Yeah. You got an MOS. Many times it was given to you. Very few come in on a contract or whatever. And then you fell in on a deployment cycle, and you went where the campaign plan needed you to go. Sometimes it was Sangin. Sometimes it was fucking Camp Leatherneck or Al Assad in 2017 or something. Just sort of helping train the local dudes on Force Pro and those sorts of things. But that's not a hit on you.
It's all important, and it all matters.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's so important that you guys are doing not only what you're doing, but the way you're doing it, because there is that, and we grow up in this culture that really it not only cultivates, but it continues to encourage this idea of, because in our conceptually, we're a meritocracy, right? Like, if you can do the O course faster than this guy, then you're better. If you have a patch on your shoulder that's different than that guy's patch, then you're more badass. If et cetera, right? And we thrive by that sense of internal competition and that inter-service rivalry, because it does force us to get better. But what happens when you leave? Yeah. And maybe, again, through no fault of your own service or your own intentions, you don't have the coin, you don't have the patch, you don't have the whatever. And now you don't have the community either, right? Like, am I overgeneralizing, oversimplifying some of the problems here?
No, like I said, I think the idea and narratives around what it means to serve in the post 9/11 generation have been deleterious to the veteran community, and have caused a lot of soul searching for our veterans as they transition. Did my service matter? Can I be proud of my service? I was an admin soldier. I was logistics airman. I was a communicator. Does this service matter? And of course it does.
Yeah.
And and I think the folks who have sacrificed the most during their service should be honored and supported, and I think they are. And I'm thankful and proud as an American that we rally around people who have made the greatest sacrifice. But that doesn't mean that there can't be a place and a space for everybody who served to feel welcome, and to feel like they can belong to that community, and to be proud of their service. And so, if you go to PB Abate's YouTube channel, you'll see the Strength Club video. And so we just ran our strength club out at our base 2 weeks ago, and the first participant that gives his testimony about the program just says, I came here really unsure if I'd be welcomed. I came here really uncertain about the whole experience, if I rated to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, within the first few hours, he understood that this was his patrol base and this is a place that he belonged. And so to be able to accomplish something, that type of welcome, that type of reception and integration into the tribe in just the first few hours of our return-based program, I think probably points to the efficacy of what I would consider a world-class program, and how it's designed and implemented. And so that's what mission success looks like to us. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marine who feel like this is a place that I belong.
Yeah, I think what you guys are doing is so great, and it's almost countercultural because of how inclusive it is, and what it is that you guys are offering. This sort of
Well, let me jump on that real quick, Vic, too, because the SEAL Foundation is well funded, and the
Green Beret,
the Air Force Pararescue Foundation, all these sort of very focused organizations are really well funded, and that's great. I don't we're not in competition with them for their funding, but I get asked all the time by my civilian counterparts and friends, like, how do I help veterans? What's a good way to help veterans? What's a good organization to give to? And I'm like, if you want to do something that's proven to be effective, right? And have the efficacy that Tom talked about, and have the impact, right? Where, my inbox and text messages from Tom are just filled with testimonials from people who have been at the precipice of thinking of taking their own life and backed off from it, have, had a life-saving, transformative experience. If you want to help our veterans more than just saying thank you for your service and shaking a hand and walking away, then do something, right? Mm-hmm. Do something. And it doesn't have to be to PBA, right? There's other good organizations out there. People like to help Team Rubicon. Team Rubicon's doing a bunch of great stuff in the Southeast right now after Helene, right? But if you want to do something that's going to help our warriors go back and be productive citizens, better fathers and mothers, family members, better, better in their community, right? And bring that warrior spirit back with them, then give money to PBA.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think too, one of the things you guys are doing that is also, again, I think countercultural is just like any pendulum, we've sort of swung in this area of being almost, at least on the surface, overly sympathetic to the point of treating veterans like they're broken.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not the case. Like, it's not your fault that you're going through what you're going through, whatever it is that you're going through. We're trying to get left of bang. And it's like your experiences matter. It's not that you came out of them broken and are a shell of who you, like, fuck that. you should be proud of whatever it is that you did, whether you shot Osama bin Laden in the face or you're fixing tray rat heaters in some LSA somewhere, which having lived up, I needed that motherfucker. Like living. So all that shit is so important. I mean, are you guys seeing some of that's where society in their effort to help is now starting to treat veterans as if they're broken? Or at least a narrative going that direction.
And that's what my studies at grad school really involved is veteran narratives and warrior archetypes, and trying to trace that archetype all the way from Homer to American Sniper, and see how media and literature and film have interacted with the veteran narrative and the warrior archetype. And I don't place the blame solely on society. I think veterans certainly are culpable in perpetuating that narrative to their own benefit, and that is tough for me to see veterans kind of perpetuate the narrative. But certainly because so much of our society hasn't served, they don't know what to think about us.
Mm.
It's just what we tell them is kind of like what they and then you have a small population of veterans who happen to have like kind of some of the loudest voices, and so they have dominated kind of what the problems and tensions it means to serve in Iraq and Afghanistan, and then the media picks up these storylines. The New York Times from 2003 to 2012, like 97% of the articles they publish about veterans had to do with something with mental health, unstable, damaged, negative kind of connotations around veterans. And in their effort to kind of be helpful, they actually kind of are really unhelpful in perpetuating these stereotypes. And so I can do a whole episode on archetypes and narratives and the damaged, broken veteran narrative, and the veteran competing in the Victim Olympics, and how I think that's been really deleterious.
Cool, we'll have you back after your meeting then.
But I refuse pity. I refuse sympathy, and I'm not a charity case, and I'm not service didn't break or damage me, and
that's something to be afraid of, right?
War in particular kind of just reveals your true character, and so and the things that were flaws in your character may be then revealed, and the things that are strong in your character may then be revealed. But certainly I think our service gives us all an opportunity to be the best version of ourselves. And the last thing we do at our patrol base is we fill a sandbag.
Nice.
And we dedicate that sandbag to a cause or a person. And many folks will dedicate it to a fallen friend, but many folks will dedicate that sandbag to their wife, to their children, to their mom. And then as you lead the patrol base, the whole premise is like, you will continue. You've just rested and refitted inside friendly lines, and now your mission is to go back out on patrol and continue to serve, because service doesn't expire when you take off the uniform. It's who you are. It's essential part of your character as a man or woman who raised their right hand. You are a person of service, and there's no shortage of needs to serve in your home, in your community, in your churches, and so continue to find ways to sacrifice, to be selfless, and to be useful, and so PBA has always, and maybe we would be better funded if I allowed the organization to take a more piteous approach, but I've always been so guarded in terms of, we're not the guys standing on the side of the highway with a cardboard sign, "Give us $1, we're a damaged veteran." We won't ever take that approach. We want to say, like, this is an organization by veterans, for veterans, started by veterans, run by veterans, and we're improving our position, and we're building our community, and what we're working towards is one of the most consequential issues out there, like a human life. And if you want to support that initiative, we're happy to have you come in and walk point and fill a sandbag. It's an all hands effort. But if we have to figure this out, we'll figure it out, because we're not going to go out there and say, you should feel bad for us and guilty. Give me $5. So
Yeah,
I think
powerful. It's powerful stuff.
yeah, it's really powerful stuff, and I think you're asking sort of, can you put your finger on the issue? And Tom's done all the primary research and the deep historical and looked at the narratives and everything, and I've experienced it and lived it through the lens of being someone who was in and who got out and who denied the issues. And there was this this sort of turn of the phrase that General Jim Mattis used, which is post-traumatic growth versus post-traumatic stress. And when I was approached by this organization, I was seeing what Tom was doing. It made me think, this is the embodiment of that. This is actually helping people who have been through challenging, adverse, sometimes traumatic situations, and actually make the most out of it. Right. But what's the problem? Where's the disconnect? I think there's the loneliness, and there's the, not the same camaraderie. You go from, somebody said to me, when you go into the business world from the military, you go from, people who've got your back to people who will stab you in the back. Right. And it feels that way. Right.
Mm-hmm,
Like it feels that way. And I think Tom has framed it, and I've used this language that he's used many, many times. You got to ask yourself, do you want to live a life of success as defined by society at large, which is, I got a fancy car, I've got a fancy house, I make a lot of money,
my stuff,
better than the next. It's that old, 80s or 90s poster, he who dies with the most toys wins. Well, he still dies, right? Versus a life of significance, right? This notion of, and I think we self-select, train for, and become warriors in the military in the broadest sense, right? Who want to live a life of significance. And we come back to a society that expects us to live a life of success. And that creates a big disconnect, right? And so what we're trying to do is help remind the brothers and sisters who've sworn the oath that you can still live a life of significance. And actually, you've already done something that very, very, very few people will ever do, right? And what we need in this society right now is a lot more of the selflessness, right? And a lot more of the sacrifice, and a lot more of the astonishing humanity and everything that Tom's talking about. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people to grow from this, not, say, oh, well, I don't belong in this society anymore. It would be better off without me. That's not true.
That's profound. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of dignity that we need to be reminded of our dignity, that our service has brings us closer to our humanity, vice separating us from it. And I think there's a lot of things. I love to blame social media for stuff because it's such an easy target. But there is a divisiveness just in the algorithm of the individualism that it promotes and that it cultivates. And so I think when you are separated from your community, it's so easy to try to find it or replace it with something online. And you guys are providing face-to-face brotherhood, sisterhood, community, and I think it's really great.
The best version of humanity is when people are willing to put something or someone above themselves and to sacrifice for something greater, and to be more interested in the success and thriving of others than yourself. And service, that's quite literally what it is. It gives you that opportunity to do those things, to give up yourself, to give up your ambitions, to give up what makes you comfortable in support of others. And so we've got to carry that forward, whether in uniform or out. And you see that right now, and we talked about that in terms of the hurricane response. So many people that are doing stuff right now are veterans, and it's just veterans, not even affiliated with any organizations, just going down there and sacrificing and serving, and so it's just it's still in us all, and PBA just gives it's a venue for people to tap back into that.
So good. I know we're coming up on sort of the red line where you guys got to pop smoke, but I did want to just, from a how do I help standpoint, you've got the board meeting tomorrow. You guys, you gotta obviously have an agenda, things you'll be talking about. Could you, Nate, talk a little bit about some of the stuff you'll be talking about with the other board members?
I would say, board meetings are boring for most people.
No.
But
I
what I would
believe
say is, talking to the audience here, both folks who are serving, folks who have served, and folks who care about those who serve or have served, we talk about time, talent, and treasure are the three things that you can give. And don't just give thanks, right? Giving thanks is great. Saying prayers is great. But if there was 3 rules of war from Matt Abbate that, he had put up on the walls in Sangan, and rule number 3 is someone must walk point.
Yeah.
And so we try to embody that in PBA, but anyone who volunteers or wants to help, we ask them to do that as well. And you may not have all the financial resources to cut a big check, but you can give a little bit each month or something like that. You might not, be like, hey, look, nonprofit, I don't understand it. What you guys do out in the woods of Montana, I don't understand it, but I'm really good at website marketing. Great. We could use that help, right? I've got some extra time. Right. I'm in between deployments, or I'm back at home, and I've got some extra time. How can I help? Right. I think that's the most important, question you can ask us, and we will have answers for you. So time, talent, or treasure are the ways to get involved, and ask us how you can help, and we'll get you engaged.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm at a place with now 4 years into the organization where, as the officer or the commander, you're always responsible for everything your unit does or fails to do, and one of the primary responsibilities of the leader is to resource their troops for success. You give your squad leaders, your platoon commanders, you give them the resources, and then you get out of their way, and they go do incredible things, and they accomplish a mission. And PBA has proven that model. We have one hire for an organization serving several thousand veterans, and through, when we are able to resource our volunteers, the what they're able to accomplish is really just so incredible. And so what do I need to do? How can I better resource the troops to go out there and to stay in the fight, to keep attacking, keep advancing our mission, and keep this program going? And so I can see mission accomplishment. Like last weekend was the Fight Club, and actually one of my Marines attended the program, and he came back and attested, which almost every person does, about the impact that the experience had on him. That's mission success. And so we're still accomplishing the mission, but the resources, if you can't resource it, you're at some point you are not able to continue to execute. And as I look into 25, you look at the into the reserves of the ammo stocks and all the things that you need to get outside the wire and to be successful in the fight. It's a very constrained environment, and
we need resupply.
Yeah.
Okay. So pbabate.org.
Yep.
And then both of you guys are on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And we'll put all this stuff in the show description as always. And we'll make sure that folks can get in touch with you. But yeah, we're talking a willingness to help, and then the fortitude to reach out to you guys and find out how they can help.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. Sorry you got to go from this amazing time together to your meeting, but fucking welcome to the NCR. And Nate, we will, you're going to stick around for a little bit so we can talk about your book.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Vic, for having us on.
We would like to thank the Marine Corps Association and Foundation for sponsoring this episode. The Marine Corps wants Marines at all levels to be able to make sound and timely decisions, and Marines can hone their decision-making capabilities by being put into situations that require them to think critically. One way that the Marine Corps Association supports this is by providing decision-forcing cases. A decision-forcing case is a decision-making exercise that places participants in the roles of historical protagonists who at some time in the past faced a particularly challenging problem. In that role, participants are asked to devise, deliver, defend, refine, and critique solutions to the scenario as the scenario moves forward in time, creating new problems and opportunities. DFCs allow Marines to develop vicarious experience, develop decision-making skills under pressure, and foster critical thinking and creative problem solving. This is one of the many ways MCA supports Marines through an adult learning methodology. Learn more about our programs and support to Marines at mca-marines.org/professional-development. That's mca-marines.org/professional-development. Scuttlebutt is a production of the Marine Corps Association. You have heard the voices or contributions from Major Vic Rubel, USMC retired, Nancy Litchman, William Truding, and our guest. Ty Frazier is the editor, sound engineer, and technical producer. The Marine Corps Association is not an agency of the U.S. government. The opinions expressed in this episode are the personal views of the participants and do not reflect the official position of the United States Marine Corps, the Department of Defense, or the Marine Corps Association.